Hey guys, welcome to the Thrive podcast. I'm so excited that you are here. Today in our episode, I am joined by Michelle Hamby. She's a good friend of mine, known for the past couple years. She's helped myself and other people through her experiences such as being divorced and losing her mom to cancer. What I love about Michelle is that she loves to find the silver lining in every experience and use all of those experiences as an opportunity for growth. That being said, here we go. All right. Well, welcome here today. Thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it. I'm excited to listen back to all of these once they're actually published. So we're going to start off today with a question that I ask all of my podcastees, the guests on the podcast. And that is, what experience do you think you've learned from the most in your life and why?
Experience. So I've had several experiences in life that are forward moving, I guess. I'm a growth mindset person, and so um, it seems like a lot of the experiences I've either brought into my life or has been brought into my life have been that of learning about self, about people, about life overall. And if one keeps an open mind, you can take in a lot. If you find barriers in life, then yeah, unfortunately, you have to learn the same story over again.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we'll talk more about that later today
Yeah.
in our discussion. At least some of the thoughts I had put together kind of revolve around that
Right.
that story. So.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll delve into that in a little bit. Cool. Okay, so I know you mentioned talking about, I kind of summarized it just in overcoming hardships and depression. Talk to me a little bit about that story. Where does that stem from?
Well, that story stems from not my story, but my mom's. She was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was a freshman in high school. And, at that stage in life is a little uh, not so much fluid. You want to look good and present yourself
Right.
to your friends. And then there's this crisis that happens within your family, and doors and windows kind of get shut, and you kind of like recluse or only choose certain friends to hang out with because they're safe. And back then, I was a very introverted person, um, and didn't really find comfort in people. Just
That's
more.
kind of hard to believe, knowing you now.
I
That's
know
crazy.
it's completely different. I'm like,
Yeah.
who is this person? Oh,
This
that's
is gonna
okay.
be fun.
I like her. Yeah. And so her journey kind of in an odd way just brought um, pieces of light to the rest of our journeys. Um, so she was diagnosed with breast cancer, was in remission for about 12 years before she felt symptoms again. She had breast cancer, and the second time she was diagnosed, it had metastasized to her bones and her liver and her lungs. And
Wow.
so it was much worse than the first time.
Right.
The first time she did um, the regular chemotherapy treatment, radiation. And the second time, the doctors were like, you might have 6 months to live. And she was like, wrong answer. I will show you how long I have to live. And she found a different path of treatment. She did go through the normal chemotherapy, but that's when that doctor said, well, you probably have 6 months to live. And so she's like, I've got a wedding to attend. I've got all these things I want to do before I die. And I'm not going to stop now.
Wow.
So she found a different treatment in Arizona, moved down there, and did the treatment for probably a year and a half before she came back home and eventually passed. But through her process, through her journey, I feel like my journey started. In 2016, I joined an essential oil company on the hopes to find a cure for her cancer,
Yeah.
And little did I know I was probably finding a cure for my heart.
Mm.
And it was just really interesting meeting people from all walks of life. Growing up, my parents would have adults over,
Right.
um, and they'd have like Sabbath lunch and um, times of talking, and I would prefer hanging out with the adults than the children. And so like finding this sense of community felt like home, because
Hmm.
these people were older than me, and I'm like, it's just like growing up. This is perfect.
Right.
I don't
Right.
mind this at all.
Yeah.
um,
And that was with the essential oil company, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like all walks of life
Wow.
came to this. People who were religious, not religious, people who were lost, people who wanted some sort of purpose in life. Some people, would just use the oil. Some people sold the oil. Um, Nothing wrong with either.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them lead to opportunities of growth.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I really appreciated about doTERRA, was that it provided that option. It gave me new areas to focus in and uh, take classes and courses, essential oils or not, speaking courses, self-development courses. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, there's more to life than being stuck behind a desk, being introverted.
Right. Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's more fun to life than that.
100%.
Yeah. So
That's cool. So you feel like your mom's journey, in what you're saying, just to kind of recap, is like she was going through this hardship. You kind of wanted to help solve it. And then through helping solve it, you kind of solved some of the problems that were going on inside, and you started to branch out into a bigger community.
yeah,
Okay.
very much so.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how everything kind of has a timing in our life, right? Like I've seen so many times, especially with death, I would say, that it
Yeah.
really impacts, obviously not the person dying. Like they're already at the end of their journey, right?
Right.
Like it impacts the people that are left behind. And the
Right.
timing of that for people, it's like God knows like exactly when that needed to happen. Do we wish that person died? No, absolutely not, because
Right.
often it's the best people in our lives. Like
Right.
for my family, it was definitely my grandpa. He passed away at 63, so like super
Hmm.
young. My
Like the
mom's
same
dad.
age my mom,
Yeah,
roughly.
and just like a widowmaker all of a sudden, like no expectation whatsoever.
Yeah.
And seeing the impact that it had just on like like hundreds of people showed up to his funeral. Like he was just that type of person that impacted so many lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, he probably didn't even know that, right? But
Right.
like there was people that came to Jesus because of that experience, and then there were other people that um kind of reaffirmed their journey with him, or things like that, or they got on track with their family, or like there's just different stories that we heard, and it was like, wow, that is so cool. And even us as a family impacting the medical system, because they're like, wow, we've never seen a family so at peace
Mm-hmm.
going through that process. Just like, yeah, it's like, no, we're really sad that he passed away, but like we know where he's going, we know where we're going, we're going to see him again, like that sort of thing.
Yes.
And yeah, that's just huge. And that's not the only death. There's been other ones, but it's like, again, just going back to the timing of like he works things in the lives of the people that are connected with them,
Uh-huh.
and seeing that growth is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote up there, something about, some people come into your life for a reason, for a season, for a longer than that. And not that parents and grandparents are this way, but it's not the people that have passed, it's the impact that they've made on those lives.
Right.
Whether they're there just passing in the grocery store, or a community member, church member, any of those things. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're right. With my mom's funeral, um, the house was packed, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
and there's overload, and uh, it just you just don't realize that how much impact that person made.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of know,
Yep.
she was the elder in the church, and she had all these event planning kind of parties and stuff, and of course, she makes an impact, but um, the people that she had medical treatment with in Arizona, every day she'd come in, she'd look all dolled up, makeup on, and hair done, no matter if she felt like, crumb. She just was like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to maybe show God to someone.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So this is how I'm going to present myself.
Right.
And it provided so many opportunities for her to talk to people.
Right. Yeah.
In common language, not door to door or
Yeah.
anything of that
you
nature.
need to accept Jesus right now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of the experience, for sure.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I just, again, relating to that whole death thing for myself, like when my aunt passed away, it really made me think, again, the impact that I saw and various other deaths of the impact that you see. It's like, it makes you reconsider your own life. At least that's what I found for me, of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I don't need to be somebody, but I don't want to be nobody.
Right.
Like there's definitely a difference. I don't need to be on a world stage, but if I pass through life and feel like I did nothing for other people, like how sad is that, right?
Right.
Like I would want my funeral to be packed, not so that I'm getting glory, but just to be
Right.
like, I was here for a reason, and it proves it right there with the people that showed up.
Yes. She
And
impacted so many people.
Right. And I have seen that so many times, like just the people that I've seen die in my life. It's like, I need to reevaluate again. Like it's just a constant reminder.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm glad that reminder is there though, so that we always have an opportunity to readjust our lives. I think without that, life would be boring at times, or maybe all the time.
Yeah, or depressing.
Because
we don't have a second chance, right?
There's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I love that verse in Lamentations. It has, I think you could take it to have multiple different meanings, but chapter 3:23, where it says, His mercies are new every morning, great is your faithfulness. It's like every single day, like we get another chance to reevaluate. And sometimes there's days where we reevaluate more than others because of what happened. But,
Right.
it's just like, wow, like to reflect and be like, I can change course at any point. And having that growth mindset you were talking about at the beginning is super important when it comes to that, right? If we're not reflecting and we're not learning, like, how are you going to make that impact?
What are we doing?
End? Yeah, what are we doing? Just here to have fun and hopefully don't die along the way.
Sorry, not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more. We got to that part in the story where it's like, okay, you've joined doTERRA. You started to branch out, it sounds like. What kind of happened in your journey after that, if you want to expand a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. So before I joined doTERRA, I got married in 2012, was married to a man for 8 years. We had a really good marriage. And then towards the middle end, things, as they normally do, they fall apart. Not taking care of the marriage, concerned about what other people think of us and what we're doing, and not really leaning on each other and God to support our marriage, but more, what do our parents want? How do we give them what they want, yet still live in this perfect world? Like, that was our mindset then, was that we wanted to make the right choice. Not any choice, the right choice. And in our opinion, our views, the right choice was what our parents thought. And hard truth to learn. That's not the right choice.
Yeah.
The right choice is what is meant for you.
Right.
And there really is no right or wrong choice. It's just what the information you have at that moment is the choice that you make. And then you learn to adapt.
Right.
But, we had a good marriage. Life was great. There were times where there were things I didn't agree with that we did. But I think that's any relationship that you're in.
100%, yeah.
And at the same time, you have to recognize what's going on and then be willing to make a change.
Yeah.
But it's really hard when you're in a marriage because you want to be perfect and you want to, support your spouse and do everything that you're told is required in a marriage. And no one really wants to go through divorce.
No.
Hey, it's really hard. It's like a death.
It is, yeah.
And in 21, we decided this isn't working out anymore. And I, more than him, wanted to leave the marriage. There were a couple times where he said, well, that's not what we believe, and so we'll have to just work through this. I did what I had to do. I felt like I had to do to get out of the relationship. And then for the next year and a half, 2-3 years maybe, life was really rough, dark. For me, I told him, it's all me. Like, you can put all the blame on me and I'll carry that. And you can be like scotch-free. But that's not 100% true either, right? Like, it takes two to tango, it takes two to make a relationship. That time for me, if I didn't have doTERRA, if I didn't have the community that came with doTERRA, I wouldn't have been as supported to make that decision.
Yeah.
Example, in 2022, I was going down to convention for doTERRA to Salt Lake City. And I wouldn't say I was in a dark place. I just felt numb to the world, which is not a normal feeling for me. And I sometimes do things on a whim, very like fly by the seat of my pants. Sometimes good, sometimes not.
Relatable.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You never know until you go through. And I decided to go skydiving. I was in a place where I was like, I felt like I was alone. I felt like no one knew what I was going through. My mom had died. I'm getting divorced. Like, my whole world is changing. And I sign up, and the first person I met who was taking the same course for skydiving, his name is Josh. And I started a conversation with him. I was like, hey, who are you? And what are you doing here? And he said, well, I'm getting divorced after 12 years of marriage.
Wow.
I was like, what? Oh, I'm so sorry. And he was like, what about you? Getting divorced. Same.
That's crazy.
That whole trip was like that.
Oh my goodness.
So we went skydiving. We went tandem. So we had someone professional strapped to us.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. We jumped out, and that was like my jolt into life again. That was the measuring stick I compared everything to. Look, Michelle, you've skydived. You can do anything you want now. Like, when I started working out with you, I was like, look, Linda, you've skydived. Linda's like my little pet talk.
Yeah, you've talked to me about her a little bit. Yeah. I love that.
You've skydived. You can do this. Yeah, it's not comfortable. You feel awkward, all the things. But you've skydived.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have, okay, when I skydived, my instructor, he wasn't with me the whole time, like before skydiving. He's like, put this on, do this, I'll be back. And I was like, you do realize I've never skydived before, right? And so Josh's tandem guy was telling a lot more details about stuff, like, do this when this happens, do that when that happens. Lift up your feet when you're about to land, or I'll cue you in on what we're going to do. Either lift our feet or we're going to run. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my guy had kind of like a quiet voice, which is not good.
Oh, no.
When you're landing.
No.
Because I thought he said lift up, and he's like, no, run. So he's running and I'm lifting up.
Oh no.
I was like, oh dear, this is a problem. But it was a fun trip. And then the other parts in that trip, my roommate that time. So for convention, it's best if you room with people so that you can lower your cost of
Yeah.
the hotel room.
Makes sense.
And I didn't really want to room with the people that I know from up here because they didn't agree with my reasoning to leave my marriage. And so I was just went online and to like on Facebook on this doTERRA people site. And some lady was like, I'm looking for a roommate. Okay, I'll be your roommate. And got down there and met her. And she's like, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be rooming with you. My friend is. And I was like, okay.
Oh no.
This is cool. And so it was just her and, what is her name? I can't remember her name right now. We'll call her Mary. Just me and Mary. And I got talking to Mary after skydiving and I said, hey, what's your story? Where are you from? And let's see if we have like a connecting point. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm going through a divorce.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I'm like, dang, that's twice now.
Yeah.
And then we got talking, we built a friendship, and we keep in contact now. But I went out to dinner and met new people. And what do you know? They were either had gone through divorce and on the other side remarried,
Yes.
going through. And I was like, what are the odds? Like
It's
every person
insane.
I've come in
Yeah.
contact to is in my boat of some variety.
Yep.
And it just was like, aha, I'm not alone.
No.
How this happened was happening for a reason. It was like, I just had a thought like it was my second aha moment,
Mm-hmm.
like skydiving. I can't think of the word. Is like resembles something in life, and so did this.
Like a representation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
I was like racking my brain for words.
Yeah. Yeah. And just again, another community of people to be a part of.
Yeah.
Maybe like the next level of community than where I started off with first coming into doTERRA. It was interesting. But yeah, skydiving. Oh, there's a quote that my friend gave me about skydiving. And it's from Eleanor Roosevelt. The quote goes like this: look fear in the face and do the thing you think you cannot do.
Mm.
That goes true for anything in life.
Yeah.
Whether you're skydiving, literally, or just skydiving in your life.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. So skydiving to you is kind of the representation of that. That's what you think of when you're like, just face it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I just really like that a lot. I think a lot of before maybe that convention, my life was based in fear of the unknown and what are people going to think or say or do.
Yeah.
And now it's like, who cares? Let them.
Right.
Let them say that.
The let them theory, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super powerful. I feel like, especially through my divorce too, and relating to you, we've talked about this before and all of that, and you were one of the people that was there for me through it. And same thing for me, like just what I'm hearing from your story is that God just placed you in all these circumstances at the right time, like even joining doTERRA before you even knew that you were going to go through this, right? And then having that community and then meeting all these people that lined up at the perfect time, right? And recognizing like, again, I'm not alone. And what you were saying at the beginning with your marriage and feeling like you have to make the right choice, I totally relate to that. I was in the same situation, like growing up in a Christian community. Like a lot of that is enforced on you. Like you feel like you can't mess up, and you get this almost like fear of God. And I think a lot of people grow up with that, and they don't really talk about it, or it's not expressed. And so when you're going through something like divorce, which is not really accepted in the Christian
Right.
community, right? Which I think we've related on that too. Um, you feel like I'm making the wrong choice, right? But at the same time, it's like, but it's not right to stay. Like, how can it be, right? With
Right.
everything that's happening, you're like, there's no way. Like, I can't do this for the rest of my life, and this is
Right.
not how it's supposed to look.
Like,
And so it's almost, at least for me, when I got out of it, having those same types of confirmations, like even just the business that I was in, like to be able to support myself. If I didn't have that, I'm like, I probably would have had to stay just because of finances, right?
right.
But having that stability underneath me, and then having all these people in my life where I started to say, like, hey, I'm going through this. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've been through that before, or like, I'm going through it. And then not only that, but later on, I was able to help so many people with that experience. And it's like mini confirmations to me of like, you know what? It may not be like what everybody else says is the right choice, but
Mm-hmm.
this is your pathway, and I'm taking you down this for a reason, and you're
Right.
learning and growing so much, and like, it's okay. Like, I've got you.
Right.
And I feel like that's one thing that I learned so much about God through that process of like, He loves me. Even if I feel like I messed up terribly, like, He's still right there. Like, He never left. And I could
Yeah.
not grasp that concept before that happened. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah. That concept, I feel, is still hard to grasp in different aspects of life because you don't think that it's applying to, say, your job.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, ah, weird. That feels familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
What haven't I learned from this situation yet? And how can I learn something so I can move through this?
How can I
And
squeeze more juice out of it? Yeah.
exactly.
I don't want to go through this again, so let's learn everything that we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is on repeat again.
Right. Right.
Just twice. That's all I need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely relate to all those experiences for sure. What do you feel like you learn the most about yourself and about God throughout those? I mean, it's a couple different experiences, kind of all leading to the same thing.
Yeah. I think for myself, I'm more resilient than I thought.
Mm.
Um, I don't have to hide behind a character. I can be who I am, and if people don't like that, that's okay. Um, there's had a lot of growth during that time. I feel like I still do, but not as much. And I think God um, for me, He's not this. I'm present with you. At least I don't see Him this way. I think He is that way. But I think He's like that still small voice for me. Hey, look out for here. How about go to the left one more? Like that is I feel like His guidance in my life more so than like this huge swathing, I'm
Right.
clearing a path for you. I don't see that.
Yeah.
Maybe someone further away from the picture sees that. But for me, I just feel like He's there with me all the time. He guides me. I feel like sometimes the spontaneity that I have is from Him.
I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Otherwise, I wouldn't get out of my comfort zone. So,
Yep. Is it
like,
safe yet?
are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, though. I hadn't really, I mean, I relate to it for sure, but I hadn't really thought about the spontaneity in the fact of like, maybe that is God, right? But that's like, I think back on my life, I'm like, actually, that's super true because I can be a spontaneous person, and I feel like I am kind of, but at the same time, I like routine and structure. Like, I'm kind of a little bit of both. But the times where I feel like I have just been like, you know what, let's do this. It's kind of random, but I feel like this is just right for my system at this
Yeah.
point. And I look back, I'm like, yeah, like something happened, kind of like the burnt toast theory. I think we've talked about that a little bit, where it's like if you burn your toast in the morning and then you're supposed to look at it as like, well, maybe you were delayed by a couple seconds and you would have been hit by a car,
Right.
walking somewhere. Like, be thankful for it rather than like, I burnt my toast, like I don't get any breakfast or I have to start over or I'm late for work. Like, you can either spiral your day downward or you can make it go positive, right?
Right.
And so looking at those instances of like, oh, I'm spontaneous, it's like I could have either really missed something that could have negatively impacted me, or I could have positively impacted someone in a way that I don't even see yet, right?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I like that fact. That's
Yeah.
cool.
It it's very like they say God works in mysterious ways. And I feel like my God isn't black and white. He's a little gray. He's different than maybe how my family believes him to be. For me, I have to have a little more color than just black and white in my relationship with him and with other people. Um, and I've noticed when I go to Sabbath school, uh, everyone has their thought about whatever we're reading. And I think this is just my creative mind, but I'm like, well, have you thought of it like this?
Yep. Yep.
They're like, huh, not at all. I'm like, okay, you guys are black and white thinkers. That's why.
Yep. Yep.
And it, I feel like if I can be that, God can be that. God can be colorful.
Well, we're made in his image, right? So
Uh-huh.
yeah. Yeah. There's a song that's by one of my favorite Christian artists. Her name is Tarian, and maybe I've mentioned this to you before, but when I was going through that really tough time and trying to decide, like, is this the right decision? Is it wrong? Like, I don't know, and it doesn't feel right or wrong. And one of the songs that she has, I don't remember the title off the top of my head, but one line really stuck with me through that song, and it was that God doesn't color in a straight line.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, that's really interesting because everybody is like, we talk about the straight and narrow, and it's like, okay, to an extent, like I agree with that, right? But at the same time, everyone is gonna have such a different perspective. It's like, how do we know which one is right? What if it's right for everybody? Like
Exactly.
God meets you where you're at. And that's the beautiful part of what I feel like I learned in my journey is like I don't have to fit into somebody else's shell. Like I have my own shell and he's helping me build that. It's kind of like this Easter egg picture of like he's helping you decorate it and maybe it's cracked somewhere because you accidentally dropped it or it's got smudged over here and it's like but that's beautiful. Like it's your creation with
Yeah.
God himself. And when you're trying to go over and paint on somebody else's egg, like then there's problems. Then you're either fighting with them or like
Right.
it's not how I want it to look and they're like it's not how I want it to look and
You're doing it wrong.
yeah, it just causes so much mess. Like and then
Yeah.
you're left over here and your egg is blank and you're like, well, that's not very pretty. Like I need to do something with it. But sometimes we're so busy focusing on other people's eggs and if we need to look like theirs that we don't actually do anything to our own, right?
Right.
So
Or we copy their egg so
yeah.
ours matches theirs.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but you missed the point.
Yep. Yep. And I love now, I feel like expanding on that picture, sitting from a place where it's like I've started to color on my own egg, right? But I can now look over the valley and just like be thankful for everyone else's different colored egg. It's like all the different perspectives. Like I don't have to say that anybody's wrong, right? Like I do think there are black and whites to an extent with God. It's like, well, he doesn't want us to sin, right? Like if someone's blatantly doing that, that's a black for me, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like I can look and be like, everybody's life and their perspective and their relationship and their experiences are all shaped so differently. And that's really cool. Like I can gain something from this person and from that person, like, ooh, I want to add this design and that design, but it's not from a perspective of like, I feel like it needs to look exactly like theirs, like they're my idol, right? It's more like
Right.
that looks like a really good addition, like that's really smart, but I've already started to make my own creation and maybe somebody else can take from that too. So it's just more of a like there's a freedom, I guess. I think you mentioned that earlier too, with
Yeah.
just going through those experiences. There's a freedom and just being like, yeah, this is my own journey, and now I can do all this stuff, right? Like after skydiving, you had that freedom.
Yeah.
I love that.
That freedom was like the best freedom ever. But back to the eggs. So I think one of the fun parts about that is um, you don't have to copy people's design and all the things, but you can take like a piece of their design, kind of like a piece of them when they are on the journey with you. You can use that as, say, like part of the sunset. Like, oh, this person really liked this color. I'm going to paint that as the sunset.
Right.
Like, so you're taking a piece of them, but not
You're not just
what
replicating it. It's just
exactly what they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's true.
I think that's how we tend to operate in life as humans, is that we pick up little pieces and cues from people that we like or don't like, or we just use it now until we find something that works better for us.
Right.
And then we upgrade it to something better.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I feel like other people in our lives are so important too. Like, obviously, they can be detrimental, right? As with anything, it
of
can be
course.
good or bad, right? So it's like, okay, maybe pick kind of wisely who you're spending time with, but at the same time, it's like you can learn so much from the people around you. And I think maybe you can relate to this too, but what I learned through my experience is to not just isolate yourself because you're going through something hard. Like, already, even both of our experiences going through divorce, and all of a sudden they just come out of the woodwork. Like, is
Uh-huh.
everybody getting divorced this year? Like, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
But just like, you never know how you could impact someone's life. And so if I'm like, I think the devil wants us to isolate ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
he wants us to close off and not share our journey, because then nobody else benefits from it. And then you feel alone and you shut down. And now all of a sudden your light goes out and nobody's benefiting from anything.
Right.
And that's like a really sad place to be. So just a reminder to myself of like, we need other people. Like, it's a good thing.
We need to be vulnerable with other people as
Yeah,
well.
vulnerabilities. Yeah,
Because
I
I
like
think
that.
the vulnerability part gives more light. If you can be vulnerable with somebody or a group of people, you're sharing a piece of you that someone else might not get to experience. Or maybe that piece of you is like the little piece of puzzle that was missing in your
Yeah,
picture. And I think the good vulnerability is really important to have.
definitely. Yeah, you don't really get a lot of depth without that either. That's true. Just sharing experiences. I
Yeah.
like that. So, delving a little bit deeper into experience stuff, I think you've mentioned like depression and stuff in the past. I can't remember if that was correlated to the whole skydiving thing, but talk to me about that aspect.
It did have some correlation to skydiving and to my mom's death.
Okay.
Um, it's hard to say, like, this is how this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But through the process of those few things, divorce, death, um, I think for me, divorce, at least, since I felt like I took all the blame. And so he could get off, he didn't have to look like the bad guy,
Mm.
which for him, uh, that was something that was really important to him, that he wasn't the bad guy in the situation.
Didn't look a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and for me, I just was like, I don't really care anymore. The people that matter to me don't matter anymore
Yeah.
because they're not choosing to support me
Right.
through this. They're choosing to judge. They're not asking questions. And that part of the journey got to be really dark. I just went from work home. uh, The blinds were always closed, at least downstairs. My sister came over to the apartment one day and she's like, "Are you sure you're okay? Your house is a mess." I'm
That's a
like,
key sign of depression. I have related 100% to what you just said so far. So I
yeah.
get that. Yeah.
And I love my sister, but at the same time, like, not that my house is not a mess. It's a cleaned, cluttered, you know, stuff are in
Gracefully
places.
organized.
Thank you. Yes. um, and she's very more. She likes a tidy house. Like everything is tidy.
Pristine, clean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, that was never me. So for her to say something like that, I felt like she was judging me. Like, get off my back. You don't know what I'm going through.
Right, right.
And she's like, no, I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just trying to say, like, usually when people aren't doing as well, their house is a little more cluttered than normal. And I'm like, whatever. Like, not in the headspace to argue or even think about this, what is happening. Um, so we had sold the house. I moved into an apartment and I went from 2,600 square feet to 1,000. And I thought I got rid of a lot of stuff in the transition of moving. Clearly, I didn't. I had so much stuff and I didn't have any place to put it. The apartment was like this long gallo apartment, kitchen in the back, living room,
Oh,
dining
that's
room
that's
in the
already a
front.
depressing state. Ugh.
It was dark, long and narrow, and then the upstairs was lighter. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and so I wasn't in the forward motion of getting furniture and like anything. And I had a really close friend who was like, "Here, have my futon, so when you get home, you can sit on the futon instead of on your stairs," which are like way over
So
on
you
the other.
literally had no furniture, just the stairs. That's crazy.
Just the stairs,
Oh my goodness.
whatever. I had a bed upstairs, but very, very limited on furniture, and I just didn't want to commit
To clarify, was this after or before you were divorced?
after.
After. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were there by yourself.
I was,
Okay.
yep,
Got it.
yep. Yeah. And so I lived there maybe 9 months. And then in the transition of finding new friends from being divorced, I met some really great people and they offered me their bunkhouse and I hopped. I'm like, okay, I can go from dark and gloomy to something with a little more light. It's a lot smaller, but it will give me an opportunity to start over for real this time.
Yeah.
Really good people, kind hearted people. Um, there's a creek in the backyard. So fairy tale. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But that part of the journey obviously didn't happen until recently.
Right.
And the doom and gloom parts, like if you're going through a depression or a deep sadness, just keep in mind you got to get with people.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know people, this might not be the best thing to say, but for me, I needed to go prove something to myself. So I went to a local restaurant and just sat at the bar. Again, probably not the best place, but my goal was to meet people,
Yeah.
make new connections. And this place that I went is a well-known place in town where quality people come to.
I think we went to the same bar and did the same thing. That's kind of funny.
It's like when I go there, like, oh, Michelle's here. Like it's like cheers, like they know you by name kind of thing.
Does Doug still work there, by the way?
I think so.
Okay, I haven't
Yeah.
seen him in a while. Anyways,
I
sidetrack.
haven't been in a while.
Okay.
Ebbs
Good. I'm
and
glad you're not an
flows.
alcoholic, at least. No, I'm kidding.
Not at the bar, at least. No.
No, that's true.
Just kidding. I looked into other resources to help me through my depression. For me, my family is safe, but I didn't feel like they're safe with my emotions. So I didn't really rely on them for support. I remember one time I was reading a book by Pema Chodron, Make Friends with Your Mind.
Mm.
She's a Buddhist. And good night. She's got some good stuff in there that really inspired me. And then for whatever reason, my ex and I were good friends still. He wanted to remain good friends. And I'm like, that's totally fine. Not married. Like we can be friends, but not married.
Mm-hmm.
So I shared with him that I was reading these books and that was a wrong share to say. He was not ready to hear that an Adventist woman is reading about becoming a Buddhist.
He's like, oh no.
What happened?
What did I do to her?
How little did you know? Yeah. So I just found really good information in those books that gave me a different perspective of life than what I was raised with.
Kind of like streamlined, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of opened up the going from like the black and white thought to a little more color. Like, oh, it doesn't have to be so close-minded. It can be whatever. A second thing was important to me. This didn't happen until later. I had gone through the periods of depression. But the thing that was important to me was to start moving again. And a post from your Facebook came on, and I'm like, let's check that out. Again, spontaneity.
Right, there you go.
What's the worst that can happen? I get fit? Oh,
Oh,
darn.
shoot.
That's not a bad outcome. So get moving the body. It's easier to make change when you're in action of something than to try to make change when the lights are dim.
Yeah, when you're stagnant and yeah.
Yeah. And then the third is to, like what we've been saying, is build connection.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think those 3 pieces can start to help with the motion
Yeah.
of getting out. I remember seeing either in books or in conversation with people that the number one way to get out of depression is to volunteer to help someone else. And I can be stubborn at times. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to prove this wrong. And then it proved me wrong. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I needed to learn that lesson.
Right.
That helping someone else get through something can help you get through something.
Yeah. Well, in a sense too, like you are building a connection through that process. I mean, like sometimes people develop what we call trauma bonds too, right?
True.
Like you're both going through something and it's like, oh, like I'm not alone, and all of a sudden we can relate on something even though nothing else makes sense in our lives, right? So that can kind of just be like uh how to describe it, like when you are in depression, you definitely feel like nobody understands you,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like I remember being there too, just super dark. I remember describing it to some people like I just feel like I'm underwater. The water's completely muddy, so I can't hear anything. I can't see anything. I hope that I'm coming up for air again at some point, but I don't really know. And
Right.
so I have no idea where I'm heading or what's going on around me. And it's
Right.
this dissociated state of like I'm just going through the motions every day and nothing's really like you're not present at
Yep.
all. And I remember like you were with me at that time too, so maybe you can attest to this, but just coming in and feeling like, yeah, I'm having conversations with people, but I'm not really here. Like I'm trying not to bring my personal life on other people,
Right.
but I can't put myself back in my body. And
Right.
that is such a weird feeling.
It's a weird
And so
state.
yeah, like I think for me too, I relate to that, just finally reaching out to people that I felt like I could trust. At least for me, with the depression and with the divorce, trust was a huge thing because trust was not there in that relationship. Trust wasn't there in almost any of the relationships I had. And so finding people where it's like, yeah, I feel safe with you. You're not going to judge me. You can just listen and start to let me come out of my shell. Like it's slowly doing this, like unraveling the cord.
Yeah.
So you start to realize like what's actually going on in here, like what do we need to fix, and
Yeah.
not just thinking that you're constantly always the problem. Like you said at the beginning, like it takes 2 people for the relationship, and so that's a really heavy burden to carry. If I'm sure you know that from thinking like you're the only reason why it's
Yeah.
not working out, and that's really hard. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with the connections for sure. And I can't say I feel like I really helped people, but at the same time, throughout those divorce connections that we were talking about, there was several friends that ended up going through it, like really bad divorces. And I was able to be like, I got you. I know what you're going through. So I was kind of already like through it most of the way. And I feel like for myself, I kind of do just have to buckle down and just go through it. Like I don't necessarily need a study buddy.
Right.
But I still need connections. But they're not
Right.
in my head, they're not really the same thing. Like you don't have to be going through the same thing as me. Just like if I can at least like talk to somebody, sometimes that helps, right?
Yeah.
So therapists or whatever you need to kind of
Yeah.
start that process. Yeah.
Yeah. There was I forget which, I think it was a couple years ago, with work. I had this event that I was planning, and I was really like excited for the event, but at the same time, one of our shared friends potentially could show up, and I hadn't seen them since I got divorced.
Ooh. Yeah, I know how that goes.
And uh, a few years prior, they had like their garden, exploded with food, and they had extra food. And my ex said, "Hey, so and so has extra food." And I was like, "Oh, great, I'll stop in." And he's like, "No, they didn't want to see you. They just wanted me to let you know." And I was like, "What?" I, mm.
That's really
S-
strange.
It was so strange. And so seeing them in person, I was like, is that how they felt about me? They didn't want to see me. So I would like, you know, not run into the same circles as them at this event. It was at a backyard, and not a lot of people had shown up yet. So it was really hard not to run into them.
Right.
And then the husband finally just said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we had a conversation, and he's like, "Yeah, my mom's not doing so well. Is this what you went through with your mom?" And like we kind of bonded again. And I was like, oh, I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed to know that this relationship, whatever it turns out to be in the future, that we have kind of not a solid ground, but it's getting there.
A connecting point, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then his mom passed away from cancer. And I was like, okay, I know how it feels when a parent passes away. These are the things I can do to step up my game and help them,
Right.
to help him feel like he's not alone. Like he's the only guy whose mom has passed away.
Yeah.
Like those situations in life. Basically, when people are going through something I've been through, I will not say, I understand what you're going through. I hated when people said that about
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll step in to be your mom and we'll just, it's okay. And I'm like, no, I don't need you to be my mom. I don't want you to be my mom. I just needed a support person. Um, not like you said, not a hand-holding person, but somebody who has been there, has gone through that, and can help you if you ask them.
Right. I
Or
feel like,
send notes.
yeah, definitely.
Thinking of you. How are you doing today?
And that's what surprised me, I think, about, I don't know exactly what your community was like at the time, but you said you came from Adventism. And what surprised me with my church community is that support seems so difficult. And so I don't know if it's specifically with the church community. I just know that because that's what I came from.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just don't know how to support you. They're like, I'm like, is it so hard to even reach out and ask if you're okay? Like,
Right.
rather than, but I think people, and I've talked about this a lot with others, is like the categorization is everybody needs someone else to fit. We all need somebody else to fit in a box. And as soon as they don't fit in our comfy little boxes, we're like,
Yep.
we freak out. It's like,
Right.
what do we do? Like, we all of a sudden freeze and it's like fight or flight mode. Like, I don't know what to do with you. So we're just gonna either ignore you or like treat you like an ostrich. Like, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem like people have tactics to kind of come around that. Like,
They don't.
just make normal conversation. Like you don't have to pretend like I don't exist or any of that.
Right.
And so from my end, it's made it kind of awkward. Like, okay, now how do I overcome that? Because if they're not going to talk to me, then how do I broach that? Like, is it do I actually need to reconnect, or is it more like you just don't know the situation, and so I just want to at least show you that I'm here for you? But that support I found in that group specifically is like kind of non-existent. Like, you can kind of tell people want to, but it's just,
But they're not sure.
yeah, but they're not sure, and it's not really there, and it comes across a lot more as judgment, and then you don't feel safe.
Right.
And so I think that finding support for people going through, whether it's divorce or something else that's hard in their life, like that can be a challenging point, I think.
That
And
is
what
a
helped
hard
me
point.
is finding, I mean, I had some great therapists that I was able to go to. I was going to like 3 different therapists at one point. Sounds like an insane asylum, but
No.
it was really good. It was really good for me. And that was a point because I'm like, you are a neutral person. You don't know either party. I can just kind of tell you what's going on, and you'd be like, yeah, I totally hear that. Have you thought about this? And it's like, okay, you're not just here validating my feelings, because I don't need to be right all the time. I just want to be listened to.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think about that, but what I would suggest is someone going through something that's that hard is at least find some neutral ground, like neutral ground first, because you can easily get opinions involved and someone can give you bad advice. You can have a good friend with bad advice.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to take you on a whole nother path where you don't want to go. Like, yeah, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that as far as support. But
yeah, I think like common ground was to go to the gym. I'm in a vulnerable place. I don't like going to the gym. I'm sure there's other women or people there that don't like that either. Okay, that's a common ground.
Right.
From there, you can break things down into smaller steps. Like start having conversations with people, figure out what's common between the two of you.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to make it so elaborate, like it has to be done step A, step B, step C.
No, then it's not natural.
It needs to be fluid.
Yeah.
You need to be the river and not the rock.
Right.
So find ways to just break out of your shell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be different for everyone, going through all situations in life.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you lead with, I'm not judging, that helps a lot. That helps to like, if people know that you're not judging them, they're going to break their shell a lot quicker with you.
It's crazy what people will say to you when they recognize that. Yeah. There was maybe you've seen it too, but there was a challenge going around on Instagram for a while. Maybe it's still there, but it was this whole real idea where these couples specifically would be like, we listen and we don't judge. And then the one person would say something like that was actually true, but that was kind of crazy and that they've never told their partner before, and they'd just look at him like, okay, never mind. I'm not judging, right? And it's like
Right.
You feel okay to do that, and it's like
Yes.
just that should be a normal, like, just create that space where it's like, I may not agree with what you did, but you know what? That's your decision. You have to live the consequences. Like, I want to be here to support you and help you through that if you can, right? But
Right.
that can be really hard to do because it's like we want to be in the right and we want to correct this thing that's irritating us, but
it's not our journey.
no,
we can't correct their journey.
We're supposed to have grace with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have to create this space with people to let them be them.
Right.
And let you be you. And however those two collide, great. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's just like the best part about being human and in relationship with others.
And not everybody's going to be right for you either.
No.
Definitely not. We already figured that out.
Even family can't be right for you.
Oh boy, that's that's a hard one to learn.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got just a couple minutes left. So do you have any other closing thoughts or things that you want to add as we come to the end?
I think I have a little quote on my phone that I wanted to add.
Yeah, go for it.
Similar to what we've been talking about. You are part of a puzzle in someone else's life. You may never know where you fit, but someone's life may never be complete without you in it.
I like that. I've never heard that one before. That's really cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that applies to you specifically? Like, what resonates with you about that?
Just like going back to convention, meeting all those people that were either in divorce, going through divorce. I needed their stories to help make me feel that I wasn't alone.
Right.
If I didn't have that, I would not be where I am now.
Yeah.
I'd be like
true.
a few years out still. And so I would say show up, be who you are without judgment. Give people grace.
Yeah.
And just flow together in the river. No one
Be
has
the
to be
river,
the
not
rock.
the rock. Yeah.
God's the
I like
rock.
it.
You're the river.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. All right. Well, that's a really good note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me for this and for sharing your story, and
You're welcome.
lots of good gold nuggets in there for people to take from, and hopefully somebody does benefit from it, right? Like
Yeah.
we're the puzzle and or the piece in somebody else's puzzle right now. So
It's very
looking
true.
forward to that. But yeah, I appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep thriving.